You are sitting in a booth at a diner at 1 a.m. There are four of you. The bill is $42.50. You all put your phones face down and start doing the math. You owe $11.25. Your friend owes $9. You ask the waitress to split the check four ways. She rolls her eyes. You don't care. You have $48 in your checking account until Friday. Nobody is embarrassed. Nobody feels shame. You are all broke, and being broke together is a culture. It is a shared identity. You complain about your manager. They complain about their landlord. The anxiety is a shared language. Money isn't a weapon yet. It's just the weather, and it's raining on all of you equally. You leave a $3 tip in quarters. You walk out to cars that make bad noises when they start. You feel connected. You belong here. The first rule. At zero, poverty isn't an isolating experience. It is the only glue holding the group together. Level 2. $10,000. You stopped going to the diner at 1 a.m. Not every time, just most times. You tell them you have an early shift. You don't tell them you're quietly saving $1,000 a month. You are building a raft. When you do go out, you order an appetizer as a meal. You drink tap water. Your friends notice. They don't ask what you're building. They say you're acting cheap. They say you're changing. The jokes have an edge to them now. The friction is small, but it's there. The second rule. Your financial discipline feels like a personal rejection to the people who lack it. They invite you to a music festival. It costs $300. You say you can't swing it. They know you got a promotion. You don't explain that having $300 and being able to afford $300 are two entirely different mathematical equations. You stay home. They post photos holding expensive drinks. You look at your savings account. The number has 5 digits for the first time in your life. You feel secure. You feel a little lonely. Level 3. $100,000. The gap is no longer invisible. It lives in the silence of the room. You are sitting on a cheap couch. Your friend is talking about his car. The transmission is slipping. It will cost $1,800 to fix. He is panicked. He is talking about taking out a payday loan at 400% interest. He is talking about driving on a dying transmission until it leaves him stranded. You sit there and do nothing. You have $100,000 liquid. You could write a check for $1,800 right now and forget you spent it by Tuesday. You don't. You know if you do, the dynamic changes forever. You become the bank. So you just nod. You say, man, that's rough. You perform the anxiety you used to feel authentically. You lie by omission. Later that week, you go out for drinks. The bill comes. It's $85. You drop your heavy metal credit card on the tray before anyone reaches for their wallet. You say, I got it. You think you're easing their burden. Your friend looks at your card, then looks up at you. It isn't gratitude in his eyes, it's resentment. You just reminded him that what takes him 4 hours of labor to earn, you can throw on plastic without checking your balance. The shift. You stop splitting the check to be nice. They hate you for it anyway. Level 4. $500,000. You are living a double life. Your net worth is $500,000. You max out retirement accounts. You own property. You hold broad market index funds. Your friends don't know any of this. You complain about the price of gas because they complain about the price of gas. You wear the same faded brands you wore 5 years ago. You do this on purpose. You are actively camouflaging your reality to survive in their ecosystem. You're at a backyard barbecue. Someone brings up the housing market. They say the system is rigged. They say rich landlords are ruining the city. You own 2 rental units in that exact city. You take a slow drink of your beer. You nod and agree with them. You realize you can never tell these people the truth about your life. If you tell them, you become the villain in their story. You become the system they are complaining about. A friend asks to borrow $5,000 to start a podcast. He has no business plan. You say no. You tell him your money is tied up in illiquid investments. It's a complete lie. You have $60,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account waiting to be deployed. He stops texting you. You let the friendship fade. You don't fight for it. The third rule. At this level, preserving the relationship requires shrinking yourself, and you are getting tired of shrinking.
Level 5. $1 million. The camouflage stops working. The math gets too big to hide. You buy a house. Not a sprawling mansion, but a modern house in a quiet zip code they categorically cannot afford. You don't post a photo on social media. They find out anyway. You invite them over for a housewarming party. They walk through the custom front door and the energy in the room drops 10 degrees. They compliment the kitchen island. They touch the quartz countertops. They ask what you do for a living again, even though they've known you for a decade. The phrase arrives. You hear it 3 separate times before the night is over. Must be nice. It is spoken with a tight smile, but it is not a compliment. It is an accusation. Must be nice to have this much space. Must be nice to not worry about rent. They are editing your history in real time. They forget the weekend nights you stayed in working while they went to bars. They forget the calculated risks you took. They look at the polished result and decide you simply got lucky. It's easier for them to believe you caught a lucky break than to admit they were playing the wrong game. A guy you haven't spoken to in 2 years calls you out of nowhere. He asks if you want to invest in a tech startup his cousin is building. You are no longer a person to them. You are a walking pool of capital. The shift. When you cross $1 million, your success becomes a mirror, and most of your old friends will genuinely hate what they see. Level 7. $3 million. The divergence is complete. You don't have screaming arguments with your old friends. You just have absolutely nothing left to say to them. You went on a vacation to Japan for 2 weeks. You flew lay-flat business class. You stayed in a boutique hotel that cost $800 a night. You come back and meet an old friend for coffee. He asks how the trip was. You look at your cup and say, "It was good. Really cool culture." You don't tell him about the private tasting menu in Tokyo. You don't tell him about the flight. You deliberately strip all the vivid details out of your own life so you don't sound like you're bragging. You sit in a suffocating silence. He talks about his manager being unreasonable. He has been complaining about this exact manager for 4 consecutive years. You want to tell him to quit. You want to tell him he's actively wasting his potential. You know you can't. If you give him structural advice, it sounds like extreme arrogance. If you stay quiet, it feels like pity. You stop getting invited to the casual things. The group chat goes dead for weeks. They assume you're too busy. They assume you wouldn't want to go to the dirty dive bar anyway. They are actually right, but the exclusion still stings. You stop inviting them to things too. You want to go skiing in Aspen. You know if you invite them, you will have to pay for the cabin. If you pay, they will feel indebted to you. If they feel indebted, they will resent you for the power dynamic. So you just go alone. Or you go with the new friends. The 4th rule. Wealth doesn't just buy privacy from strangers, it buys permanent distance from the people who knew you before. Level 7. $10 million. You are standing in a kitchen with imported marble counters that span 14 feet. There are 12 people in your house. A private chef is seamlessly plating hors d'oeuvres. You are pouring a vintage wine that costs substantially more than your first car. You look around the room. You realize you haven't known a single person standing here for more than 5 years. These are the altitude friends, the ones who survived the exact same climb you did, the ones whose businesses generate 8 figures, the ones who don't flinch when you casually bring up tax strategy, trusts, or estate planning. You can speak freely in this room. You don't have to hide the mechanical watch under your sleeve. You don't have to pretend you care about the fluctuating price of gas. It is remarkably comfortable. It is entirely frictionless, but it is also entirely conditional. You know deep down in your bones that if you lost it all tomorrow, this room would empty before the wine had a chance to breathe. You check your phone. There's a text from a guy you went to high school with, the guy you used to sit with at the diner at 1 a.m., meticulously splitting the $42 check. It's a link to a song you used to listen to in his beat-up Honda Civic. He says, "Made me think of you." You look at the text on the glowing screen. You look back up at the room full of millionaires eating seared scallops. You type a reply. "Hope you're doing well, man." You hit send. You don't ask to meet up. You don't call him to catch up. The gap is simply too wide now. There is no structural bridge left to cross. You are wealthy in a way that means you have total geographic and temporal freedom. You can go anywhere on earth. You can buy anything you point at, but you can never, ever go back to that diner. You can never go back to the sticky booth where everyone was broke and everyone was in it together. The final rule. The ultimate cost of making the money is that you have to completely become the person who keeps it. And that person cannot survive in the world you came from. The money bought you out. You just didn't realize you were silently selling your seat at the table.